One of the first Jewish people I ever met was, I mentioned that I worked in a seniors home in Malot in Israel, and our cook, our chef in the kitchen where I worked, he had a large family that had also come from Eastern Europe, and at some point we talked, and he came from Romania. And I've heard many stories and met with many Holocaust survivors also, first, second generation, or even people fled from Germany to Romania because it was considered a safer place and you had greater chances for survival, and who are today in Israel and flourishing in Israel. And I think for each of the nations, it is good for us to look at our history, to look at where we played a role in harming God's people, where we need to ask for forgiveness, that may be at a national level, that may be at a personal level, even just to put the truth on the table, to talk about it in the family and bring it to God. But then also look at where do we have a God-given role, a God-given inheritance, where maybe as a nation there was a role in also providing a degree of protection, a degree of being a hiding place. And there was both from coming from Germany, people who fled from Germany, even from just remember one story of a lady I'm very close to who said she can still remember her streets in Chemnitz, the city where I was born, but then the father was picked up by the Gestapo, and overnight she was able to escape with her siblings and her mother to Romania. So it was to a certain degree a place of refuge. Of course, then history also played another role, and there were other influences, and there was an alliance with a regime. But I think it is a good thing to bring our history before the throne of God, confess what needs to be confessed, receive forgiveness and healing, and then also ask, where do we have something from God that can be a blessing for the Jewish people? And I think there is a piece of inheritance to provide refuge, to provide protection for the Jewish people. And it may be a spiritual protection where there are Romanian hands going up in prayer before the throne of God and providing spiritual protection against the nation of Israel, and it may have a practical implication. But I would love to see Romania also rising up to the fullness of its calling and hearing from God. This is what I have for you. This is how I want you to bless my Jewish people. And this is how I want to heal your roots as a nation, to reconnect you with your Jewish roots and be blessed by your Messianic Israeli heritage. And I think that's what we see in our times, that God is restoring individual lives. He's restoring this generation. You know, it has been said many times, and most of us who are alive today have somehow in our families been touched by this last horrible world war, and it has shaped how we feel. It has shaped how we feel about ourselves. It has shaped how we define ourselves as a nation. And I think, you know, it's been 70 plus years, and we have this period that's mentioned many times in the Bible, and for Israel it was then a time of restoration. And we also have in the Bible that where God is saying that He will revisit the sins of the fathers to the third and fourth generation. And when we look back to that original catastrophe of the 20th century, we are now in that third or fourth generation, the people who are alive today. And I just believe that God is turning something around in our generation, where we have the liberty and also the access to ask some specific questions about history, to deal with it, but where we are also being empowered to be a blessing in a unique way that God had always wanted to give to our nations and to Romania, but that God is releasing now through people who say, yes, I accept the responsibility side by side with the Almighty God to be a blessing to His people.
Alpha, Omega.